touch on the right control panel sent the Salamander wide of Mechwarrier's Zeus, still wreathed in arctinic flames, while a twist of the control yoke rotated the machine's torso, keeping its boxy missile launchers in line with the enemy now becoming visible behind the glare. He adjusted the crosshairs to compensate for the lumbering stride of the Salamander. 60 missiles sped from the Salamander's launch tubes, corkscrewing toward the Cathil mech and wreathing it in smoke and flame. As an unbiased party, I feel obligated to point out that there are not enough battlemechs with amphibian names and themes. It is a glaring oversight in the pantheon of such battlemechs as the mongoose, raven, and crab. Where's the frog, the newt, the hellbender, the mud puppy, the axolotl? People demand answers, Catalyst. Anyway, it's hardly a controversial statement to point out that the original 3055 technical readout is amazing. If you have a paper copy, defend it with your life. If you have access to the PDF, that's almost as good. I remember distinctly sitting down and just being blown away by the full color pages and a much more dynamic art style that gave the mechs a lot of life. Now, this isn't meant to disparage the previous art, as the 2750 and 3025 TROs are amazing in their own ways, but the 3055 was something special. Even mechs that weren't lucky enough to be in full color were interesting and made you want to play them at just a glance. Mechs like the Night Sky, the Marauder 2C, Gunslinger, and Stone Rhino were strong, and it's difficult to find a mech in that entire book that wouldn't at least be interesting to see on the battlefield. One of those mechs that's always jumped out to me as a cool design with solid artwork was the PPR-5S Salamander. While it isn't a glory hound battle mech packed with ERPPCs and Gauss rifles, it did fill the all-too-crucial fire support niche with a similar bit of swagger that I've previously noted with the Night Sky. A product of the legendary Defiance Industries design teams in 3055, the Salamander took advantage of endosteel, an XL engine, double heat sinks, and case to create a tough, LRM-slinging battle mech that could move at a decent clip and remain in position with plenty of ammunition. The mech's designers were willing to take chances and created a mech that defied several important mech construction norms, for good or bad. It's rumored that there was a plaque on the wall at the Salamander production line on Hesperus 2, which read, "Radical Designs for Radical Times." If you're a younger viewer, find yourself an old person and ask them what radical means. Weighing in at 80 tons, the Salamander is a step above in commitment to a bit over other popular fire support options like the Archer. Built to take a beating, the Chariot's Type 4 endosteel was specifically tailored to resist the stresses caused from firing large numbers of long-range missiles. The Pitban 320 XL engine sacrifices space for weight while making sure the Salamander can still move at a respectable 65 km per hour. The Tharhees HM-10 communication system was top tier for the time, and the Tharhees Ares 7 targeting and tracking system proved to be more than capable at tracking multiple targets and making the most from that indirect fire. The 15.5 tons of Glasgow Limited standard armor made the Salamander a tough target to take down. 247 points of armor doesn't go down very quickly to counter battery fire. The primary weapons are the Doombud LRM-20 systems installed in the mech's left torso, right torso, and left arm. Up to 60 LRMs hitting a target is not something you can ignore for very long on the battlefield. With 9 tons of ammunition, that fire is going to be consistent and feel unending. For close-range interpersonal conflict, the Salamander has a pair of standard Defiance B3M medium lasers split between the side torsos. It's not awe-inspiring, but it's important to remember that it's a fire support mech that is relying upon its armor and speed to get out of situations should things turn sour. If you're staying to brawl, that's on you. On that note, can we take a minute to appreciate one of the best pieces of art from the 3055 technical readout? Here we have a berserker doing what it does best, rushing into physical combat at close range, and in the other corner we have a Salamander, which has apparently decided that it's going to take its chances by getting into a hatchet fight with a fist. It's silly and ballsy, and I think that the berserker learned a thing or two about friendship and not having to resort to violence. I kid, that Salamander probably died and it likely hurt the entire time. As we pause to ponder our own mortality, it's worth noting that the addition of case in the left and right torso will end up saving the pilot from an ammo explosion, which is always a concern when you pack any mech with 9 tons of ammunition. And that's it. No fancy anti-missile systems or APODs or anything like that. It's just a solid and decently fast 80-ton mech with the ability to make it rain. But people did complain. There were rumblings as the first Salamanders were picked up by Lyran units stationed along the border with the Jade Falcon occupation zone. Technicians reported that the Salamander was difficult to maintain, with several systems being hard to keep running without glitches. For many battlemechs, this is typical. Unfortunately, it has persisted in the Salamander and has become an expected quirk of ownership. Now, the Salamander's top competition at the 80-ton weight mark was the Awesome 9M, and the rivalry resulted in claims that the Salamander was an attempt to copy the 9M's success. The mechs do share some characteristics which are obvious, but Defiance Industries reps consistently fought against the rumors. More importantly, there is a critical flaw discovered concerning weapons and ammunition placement. Due to the XL engine and the placement of an LRM-20 in each side torso, there's really not enough room to cram all of the ammunition into the torsos. The left arm of the Salamander 5S carries 3 tons of LRM ammunition. That's a big problem, even with the addition of case in the torso. An ammunition explosion in the arm is likely to disable the entire mech as the damage is transferred to the left torso, where there is even more ammunition waiting. It's something the Salamander's Mechwarrior absolutely needs to know about, and drawing reloads specifically from that arm should be a priority right at the beginning of the battle. Though it was expected that the Salamander would primarily face clan forces, the Tukiad truce would delay that action. Tragically, the first production runs of the Salamander would be largely put into the fight during the FedCom Civil War. One battle report from the city of Radcliffe describes a Commandant Jim Wendt, who led his Lyran forces from the front against a contingent of FedSum's militia. He ended up getting into a duel with a militia commander in his Victor, and the two traded fire until ultimately the Victor was disabled. Unfortunately for Wendt, his Salamander was then hit in an aerospace fighter bombing run, and the incendiary rounds triggered an ammunition explosion in his battlemech. Though the case protected him to the point of ejection, the Commandant had nowhere to land except for the fires that raged below. Just 1 year after the first production runs of the Salamander, there were calls for a speedier version that could zip in and out of combat when needed. In 3056, the Salamander 5T was introduced, which paid for a larger engine with downgraded LRMs, lasers, and a little bit less armor. The 5T could move at 86.4 km per hour, which is impressive for an 80-ton battlemech, but swapping out the LRM-20s for LRM-15s feels like a bigger step down than it actually is. The downgrade of the medium lasers to 2 small lasers also makes the mech's speed all the more important, as the Salamander 5T was incredibly vulnerable if an attacker was able to close within the minimum firing range of those LRMs. The armor for the 5T is also cut to just 13.5 tons. While the Salamander 5T might be useful for inclusion in a force that's able to move quickly, losing the equivalent of an entire LRM-15 for the privilege of going faster is a steep price to pay. If you're looking for a more well-balanced Salamander that can wander into short range without triggering a panic response, the 3058 Refit 6S may be the variant for you. Pulling the left arm LRM-20 and replacing it with an SRM-6 gives the mech some short-range punch, along with a pair of medium pulse lasers. Artemis 4 systems are added to the 2 remaining LRM-20s as well as the SRM-6, which is going to make sure that those missiles fired are going to be more effective. The 6S also has a couple of extra heat sinks to cover for the heat generation from those pulse lasers. My main concern for the 6S is the concentration of 5 tons of ammunition along with the SRM-6 in the mech's left arm. While the left torso does have case in it, it also contains another 2 tons of LRM ammo. That's 7 tons of missile ammo on the left side of the Salamander along with an XL engine, which means that hitting ammo in that left arm will more than likely disable the mech in an epic ammo explosion. It's an intensified version of the critical flaw shared in the original loadout. Then again, if it happens, you're dead either way. In 3060, the Salamander would get another refresh to turn the mech into a brawler that could also aid in fire support. Again, the LRM-20 in the left arm is yanked along with the 2 medium lasers, in favor of 2 medium pulse lasers and a large pulse laser in that left arm. 14 double heat sinks tackle the heat generation from the lasers, and while I can sympathize with the desire to add pulse lasers to everything, I'm wary of this Salamander 6T. In trying to be both a fire support mech and a close-range brawler, the risk of holding all of that ammunition, 3 tons of LRM ammo on each side torso, along with your XL engine is going to make your brawling career a short one. Case is great for saving the Mechwarrior's life, but being dispossessed really sucks, and it's much more fun if you just win. As entertaining as it is to wade into the middle of the fray all fists and elbows like a whirling dervish, I don't think the Salamander is the mech for the job unless you rip out that XL engine and put in a standard. Now, we're risking things getting a little bleak for our friend the Salamander here. Thankfully, the 7S variant is here to save us. In 3064, the light engine technology was used to address this critical flaw that I keep rambling about concerning ammunition explosions. With only 2 engine criticals in the side torsos, you can now experience an ammunition explosion, and the case will not only keep your Mechwarrior alive, but also prevent the mech's complete destruction. Sacrificing a little armor, jump jets are added to improve mobility. Leaping 4 hexes is really nice for keeping a fire support mech alive. The LRM-20s were sacrificed in favor of 3 LRM-15s with Artemis 4 fire control systems, and a pair of ER medium lasers in the center torso complete the loadout. If you're looking for a Salamander that is the most well-rounded, the 7S is by far the best. While it does still carry 2 tons of ammunition in the arm, it's not going to be a mech killer if it does cook off in an ammunition explosion. Your mech is still in trouble, but at least you're still in the fight. The last of the official Salamander versions is our Dark Age refit. The Salamander 7T has some new bells and whistles that are worth looking at. Once again, it has that Innersphere XL engine along with an extra light gyro, which buys you some weight to play with at the cost of 2 additional gyro critical hit locations in the center torso. This can be risky, but as we're going to see, it won't matter anyway with this loadout. The weapons were all pulled in favor of 2 extended LRM-15 systems in the torsos and 1 extended LRM-10 in the left arm, all 3 aided by a C3 boosted system. The extended LRMs could reach out to 38 hexes, which is amazing, but ultimately it's still only possible to do up to 40 damage if every missile hit. The 7T is burdened with the same flaw as the earlier Salamanders with ammunition in the left arm, though now it's a death sentence for the Mechwarrior as case has been left out of the torsos. The Salamander 7T is definitely a mech you want to keep very far from the front lines. That being said, being in medium range with those LRM systems at 22 hexes along with the C3 computer is really nice if you're going to be consistently putting fire on targets. So maybe don't dismiss the 7T without a good ponder. As usual, we're going to need to try out a Mech Frog refit for the Ill Clan era. The Salamander MF1 draws upon what the 7S started with the light engine. It adds some clan technology thanks to our friends in Clan Seafox. The design keeps the light engine, jump jets, adds a few more double heat sinks to boost cooling up to 30 points per turn, upgrades to Clan Endosteel, and goes for a full weapons refit. 3 Clan LRM-15s split between the right and left torsos and the left arm keep the original's aesthetic. A Clan LRM-20 is then added to the left arm because if some missiles are good, then more must be better. To aid the missiles in their journey towards self-actualization, a Clan targeting computer was added to the right torso. In the unlikely case that there are enough enemies left after you run out of ammunition, 2 Clan ER medium lasers in the center torso are a good conflict resolution strategy. The Salamander MF, while not a min-maxed full Clan version of the Salamander, is quite deadly at all ranges. With a possible 79 total damage in an alpha strike, it could ruin another Mechwarrior's entire day. And we did have to try it out in Megabec, so I loaded it up and sent out 3 Salamander MFs into battle against an Alice, Battlemaster, Cataphract, and Orion, just to see what would happen. The Atlas was first to fall under the combined fire from all of those LRMs, though Princess did give as good as she got with the death of the first Salamander due to some through armor criticals from an LB-10X on the Orion. Eventually, the 2 remaining Salamanders were able to burn down the Orion, while the Battlemaster and Cataphract lingered in the backfield. Left with a 2v2, I marched the Salamanders down to force the issue and all heck broke loose. 1 more Salamander died just as the Battlemaster was knocked down, leaving only a Salamander and the undamaged Cataphract. Unfortunately for our little experiment, the Cataphract's shots were quite accurate and the last Salamander was burned to the ground. Good job, Cataphract. By hanging back and avoiding the fight, you get to survive. Well, let's not turn this into a life lesson. I should have loaded up the MFs with Thunder LRMs. Dang it. In spite of its rather notable explodey flaw, I really like the Salamander. It has a great look to it, and the good fire support mechs are hard to come by. The 7S really is the most well-rounded design, and I would recommend it most of the time. Are you a fan of the Salamander? Did you forget it exists? Do you have thoughts on a refit that could address the whole explode if you shoot off the arm gag? Let me know in the comments below. I'm still pondering what we might do for the 10,000 channel subscriber celebration. I have a little bit of time to plan still. I have a few ideas, and I'm sure one of them will float to the surface sometime between now and when we drag this thing over the top. Thank you as always for being here and chatting BattleTech today. It's so much fun to go back and look at some of these older mechs that I haven't thought about in such a long time. Please do hit the like and subscribe button if you feel a video was worthy and you want to see more. I'll keep working hard to make the content worthwhile. Until we meet again, take care and go make the world a slightly better place today and tomorrow.